The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus departed from there and came to his native place, accompanied by his disciples. When the Sabbath came, he began to teach in the synagogue, and many who heard him were astonished. They said, "Where did this man get all this? What kind of wisdom has been given him? What mighty deeds are wrought by his hands? Is he not the carpenter, the son of Mary, and the brother of James and Joseph and Judas and Simon? Are not his sisters here with us?" And they took offense at him. Jesus said to them, "A prophet is not without honor except in his native place, and among his own kind, and in his own house." So he was not able to perform any mighty deed there, apart from curing a few sick people by laying his hands on them. He was amazed at their lack of faith. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. You will hear more from Father Ben beginning next weekend since I'm on vacation. But for now, I'll get a few more words in. This 4th of July weekend is a wonderful opportunity given our scripture text for not only a scripture lesson, but a little bit of a history lesson. Be it no surprise to Christians that our nation was founded on belief in God. That is why when the president takes an oath of office, he says, "So help me God." That is why when we do the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, it's one nation under God. That is why we have engraved on all of our monetary units, "In God we trust." That is why Congress begins its sessions with a chaplain prayer. And that is why Congress has also provided for chaplains in the military. 239 years ago, 56 men signed the Declaration of Independence. At great jeopardy to their lives, their families, and their homes. Because of their conviction, many of them were tortured and killed. Many of them saw their homes go up in blaze, and many of their children and their spouses needed to flee for safety. And so we need today a history lesson, lest we forget on what principles our country was founded. So let's turn to a few statesmen for some wonderful lines about this nation of ours. Patrick Henry said, "It cannot be emphasized too strongly or too often that this great nation was founded not by religionists, but by Christians, not on religion, but on the gospel of Jesus Christ." George Washington said, "Do not anyone claim the tribute of American patriotism if they ever attempt to remove religion from politics." Abraham Lincoln, always great for the one-liners, said, "Sir, my concern is not whether God is on our side. My great concern is to be on God's side." And Ben Franklin, "He who shall introduce into public affairs the principles of Christianity will change the face of the world." In our 239-year history, I think we've gotten it right most of the time, but we have to admit, certainly of late, we've gotten it wrong a few times. Be it the judicial branch or the legislative branch or the executive branch. What the Constitution guarantees is not freedom from religion, but freedom of religion. That's where we run into a problem as well. Did you notice over the last 30 years, our Supreme Court has deemed 2 more religions, and it's on the book. Secular humanism, as such, relativism, has been declared a religion by the courts. So has atheism. Therein begins the erosion of our principles and our infrastructure. Therein we need to be careful of the perilous slope. Jesus came to his hometown of Nazareth. They knew him. They knew his family. They knew he was the carpenter's son. They were very familiar with him. So when they pegged him as such, they were offended when he startled them to be more than they pegged him. They were resentful and would not give him the credit that was his due. Do we not make the same mistakes, not only with respect to our Christ, but with respect to our founding fathers? Upon this nation, we are built for freedom and for religious freedom. It's the very core of who we are. And yet, like Paul in the reading today, he said he had a thorn in the flesh. 3 times he cried out to God to have the thorn removed. And then he realized, rather than be elated with what he was accomplishing as a disciple of Christ, he says himself, "It is sufficient that the power and grace of God will be able to move from your weakness to strength." That is, I think, how we as a nation need to look at our challenges, those thorns in the flesh. We think perhaps Paul's thorns in the flesh were maybe he had a speech impediment or something was going wrong up here. Perhaps his thorn in the flesh was St. Peter. Perhaps his thorn in the flesh was a bad hip. Whatever it was, he recognized that the Lord takes weakness through grace and makes it strong. That's what we're asked to do today as we look at a scripture lesson and a history lesson. May we recognize the wonderful country we have and how great we are yet to be if we remember some one-liners like, "So help me God." One nation under God, and in God we trust.